Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, I wasn't expecting to do a second video for today, but we really need to talk about this. I just came across this article that says the $31 trillion question. You all probably know that the U.S.'s debt, the U.S. government's debt, has gone above $31 trillion for the first time here a few days ago. I don't really keep too much track of that because it really doesn't matter. But in a way, it kind of does. I put up a video, I think it was sometime last week, where I said, who the heck do they think they are? Meaning the UN, demanding that all central banks pivot and start easing instead of tightening. For those of you that don't know the difference between easing, quantitative easing, and quantitative tightening, very simply, when the Federal Reserve or central banks are easing, it means that they're creating money out of thin air by allowing the public, or the economy you may say, to borrow money very cheaply. When they're tightening, they're going ahead and sucking money out of the economy by raising interest rates and making the price that it costs you to borrow money more. So the more that it will cost you to borrow money, meaning the higher the interest rate, the less that people are going to borrow, i.e. creating less money out of thin air, because that is how money is mainly created, is when people borrow. Believe it or not, every time that you swipe your credit card, you just created that money out of thin air. And when you pay off your credit card, you just destroyed that money that you created out of thin air. The same thing works with loans. So when people go borrow money, that is the main way that money is actually created out of thin air. Because believe it or not, when you go borrow that $500,000 or that $1 million or whatever it may be from the bank so that you can get a house, that money the bank doesn't have. They just type that money into creation. On that video, I stated that the Federal Reserve really has nowhere to go. They are stuck between a wall and a rock and a hard place, something like that, right? The Federal Reserve is stuck. It doesn't matter what they do, ladies and gentlemen. That is why it is so important that you prepare. Get prepared, because this is inevitable. This will happen one way or another, and the final outcome is going to be this. It's going to be that your dollars will be devalued in one way or another. Either they'll be devalued because people are going to lose jobs like crazy, the economy is going to start shutting down, and we will go into a worldwide, what I think will be depression, not recession. I believe we are in a recession right now. Now, this is what I believe, that we are in a recession, not only in this nation, but in most nations around the world. If they continue to tighten, meaning sucking money out of the economies, we will go into a depression. And that's why I've stated several times that many people will lose their jobs, they'll lose their homes, they'll lose their 401ks, everything. So here the UN is asking the Federal Reserve to please be a leader and think about the children. Because if you continue to tighten and interest rates go up, it's going to cost not only our country here in the United States to have to pay more to service the national debt, but it's going to make emerging countries who borrow in dollars have to pay a lot more than what they originally would have paid. And they will end up defaulting, hurting what? Hurting the dollar, i.e. hurting all those nations that depend on the dollar. I'm going to read a little bit of this, ladies and gentlemen, and it says here, in short, the U.S. is staring at a massive fiscal decision in the coming months and years. The situation isn't insolvable, but it also isn't going to be easy for them to get through it. We are staring at a global recession, in my opinion, depression, but here they say at a minimum, as well as a sovereign debt crisis in the West and in some emerging markets. Turkey has already been blown up. Turkey has had like 80% inflation here in the last month or so, and their people over there are suffering. Why? Because the dollar is going up so high against the emerging market currencies that they have no choice but to inflate, because they can't pay back loans in the same amount that they used to, because the interest rates on the dollar is so high, or the dollar is so high. And one of the reasons why the dollar is getting so high is because the interest rates on the bonds are going up, being set by the Federal Reserve, the Fed fund rate. However, the U.S. is still a major player in the global financial system, and the Federal Reserve, the most powerful of these institutions. Understanding the Fed's role in fixing what is broken is something all sides need to consider. What you need to consider is this, ladies and gentlemen. Do your own research. There is no way out for the Fed. I'm going to try and explain this to you very simply. If the Federal Reserve continues to tighten, meaning that they continue to increase the interest rates, there's a couple of things that is going to happen. Number one, businesses are not going to be able to borrow as much. Why? Because we live in a debt-based economy. All the way from the seed that the farmer has to buy in order to plant that wheat, all the way to where the bread is actually in the store shelf, credit is involved. The more that it costs them to borrow money, the more that it's going to cost for their input costs, right? Making them have to charge more, and it goes all the way down the line, right? From the farmer to the trucker, to the facility that processes the wheat into flour, to the trucker, to the facility that processes that flour into bread, to the trucker, to the facilities that distribute the bread amongst all of the supermarkets, to the trucker, then to the supermarket. There is credit involved in every one of those transactions. So you are going to end up paying more, even though the dollar is becoming stronger because they are increasing interest rates. Another thing that's going to happen is that it's going to cost a lot more fiat currency, i.e. your tax dollars, in order to service the national debt. Obviously, the higher the interest rate is and the higher that the government is paying to borrow money, the higher it is going to cost, the more it's going to cost to service the debt. All of these things factored in is going to cause businesses to shut down, to lay off people, to fire people. Take a look around. I'm sure that you've seen other videos, and I've talked about this too in the past, that businesses are shutting down. They are letting people go. I believe there was an article, I don't think I went over this on a video, but there was an article where it said that at least 50% of American corporations are planning on laying off at least half of their staff coming into 2023. All right, so there's going to be a great downturn in the economy because of this tightening. However, what's going to happen if they reverse course? In a way, if they reverse course, the only people that win are going to be the people that are already at the top. If they reverse course, it means that they're going to do what is called quantitative easing, bringing down interest rates, buying more mortgage-backed securities and garbage bonds from banks and corporations. Yes, they can buy them from corporations, ladies and gentlemen. They have ways around everything. So they're going to buy all of this crap bonds from banks and corporations. They're going to put it on their asset sheet, which is really, really high. I think it's close to 9 trillion right now, which is incredible. But they're going to put them on their balance sheet. But what really matters is that what did they give in trade for those mortgage-backed securities, let's say? They gave fiat currency. Now that fiat currency is out in the economy. There's more money out in the economy, making inflation even higher than what it currently is. And I'm not sure if you've gone to the supermarket lately, but inflation is already pretty high at like 41, 42-year highs, by the way. So once they do that, there's going to be a lot more inflation. The people that are already wealthy, they're going to get a lot wealthier. And the people that are working people that actually earn their living through labor and through wage, they are going to actually have less income in real terms. You may be earning the same, but your dollars are going to buy you a lot less. Those are the two choices that the Federal Reserve can make. And that's why I believe that eventually they will put us into a CBDC, because this way they can control everyone's purchasing however they want it. If they want inflation, they'll do whatever they have to do to program your money so that we get inflation. If they want deflation, they can do to program whatever they want to do to your money so that we can get deflation. That is the control that they will have over our lives, is they'll be able to tell us what we can and cannot buy whatever time, ladies and gentlemen. But the scary part is really this. The scary part is that there'll be one entity that's not elected by the people, we the people, that can actually demonetize your life, that can make you an NPC, right? A non-playable character, because you won't be able to play. Anywhere you go nowadays, you go to the gas station, you need money, right? You go to the supermarket, you need money, right? You want electricity, you need to pay the bill, you need money, right? Everything you need money for. You need to go to the emergency room, you need money to pay for that, right? So almost everything you need to pay for in life, everything that you use, everything that we become accustomed to, they will have full control over what you can and cannot get. There is no way out. This is the time that you need to prepare. You need to get all of those things that you need in order to survive an extended period of time. There was one time in the United States, I believe it was like 1907 or something like that, where the banks were actually closed down for like 6 months straight. Can you make it through 6 months without interacting with money? If you can, that is great. But if you can't, and there's nothing wrong if you can't, but knowing that you cannot is where you start to win, because you're now realizing that you need to prepare for at least that long, in my opinion, at a minimum, 1 year. And they continue to say, the reality is that the Fed has charted its own path here, and this week's pathetic appeal from the United Nations urge central banks from rising interest rates is the best evidence I can present to you that my argument about the Fed are correct. And yes, when the United Nations comes out, which in my opinion is kind of disgusting, who the heck is the United Nations to be telling anyone, any sovereign country, what to do? But then again, are we really a sovereign nation, ladies and gentlemen? Or have we given our sovereignty away? i.e., has the government given our sovereignty away? Right? And at what price? And they say here, the UN basically asked the Fed to think of the children. Why weren't they thinking of the children a year ago? Imagine that, ladies and gentlemen. Why wasn't the UN telling all central banks and nations, think of the children? What about those children in Yemen that are starving, that have been starving for years? What about them? Why haven't they been talking about them? Why didn't the UN come in when the president of Sri Lanka ordered that the country go from using fertilizers to all organic, already knowing what the outcome would be? In my opinion, that was a test case. Why didn't they say, think of the children? If you do this, your children will suffer, they'll starve. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, it's because there's nothing in it for them. And I'm sure that there was more in it for them to allow the suffering that's occurred in Yemen, that's occurred in Sri Lanka, to happen than it not to happen at all. And to finish it off, ladies and gentlemen, just remember what Miss Janet Yellen said just a few years back when she was the Fed. I think just after she left her position at the Federal Reserve as its chairman, or as its chairwoman, I guess you would call it, right? Because she was the top person at the Federal Reserve. She said, in my lifetime, right? I'm not quoting, but it's pretty much what she said. She said that in her lifetime, and granted, she is still alive today. She is the Treasury Secretary. But she said, don't worry, American people, that we're printing all this money. There's no problem with it. There won't be inflation. Oh, it'll be transitory. Oh, maybe transitory doesn't really mean this. It means that. Well, no, inflation won't be transitory, but it's not going to be that bad. Oh, well, I think I maybe said that wrong. Inflation is going to get pretty bad. And the big one is when she said that in my lifetime, there will never again be an economic or financial crisis. Do you think that she really believed that? Or do you think she was just saying that to pacify the masses into thinking what she wanted them to think, so that they can keep printing, so that they can keep buying everything up, so that the wealthy can get even wealthier and the working person can get even poorer? Don't tell me that they didn't know this was going to happen. It's been the plan for a long time. Yes, this was planned. 100%. All right? You cannot sit there and tell me that all of these PhDs didn't know what the outcome of printing money out of thin air would be, and just handing it out to their friends, sending those stimmies. We will pay the price. All right? We will pay the price. They will not. Never will they go hungry. Never will they be cold. But you and I, ladies and gentlemen, we're just a number, and we don't matter. So prepare. That's how you can win. That is how you can win against this institution that has impoverished the world since its inception. It's to get prepared and don't take their crap when they come offering it to you. Because so many people are going to take their crap because they're living in a normalcy bias and they think everything's going to be all right. Well, I'll tell you right now, everything's not all right now. And things are about to take a turn. If they do this pivot and they start bringing down interest rates, oh my goodness. It's going to be incredible. Incredible. That is why I'm such a proponent of precious metals. Only if you have all of the things that you need to prepare. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to get off my soapbox. Like I said, I wasn't planning on doing this second video, but this is something that you need to understand. And if I did not explain it to you in a way where you understand it, please do some research. Please look it up. Read The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffith. It's a pretty thick book, and in my opinion, it's a little bit of a hard read, right? But make the effort. Learn. There's a whole bunch of YouTube channels here that cover this, that have good people covering this kind of stuff. Look them up. Go learn about this, because it is going to affect everyone in the world, and it's going to affect you as well. Don't think you're insulated from this. Having said that, have a great rest of your weekend. God bless every one of you. We will see you tomorrow during our live stream at 9 a.m. Alaska time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. God bless you all.